highway over the Herbert River that was supposed to be replaced this year, I think. So I just want to make sure that that's going to happen. I want to say thanks for the 14 highway. It's being paved now, so I appreciate that very much. I know my constituents there do. Believe me, it's a bad road, so they're appreciative of that. I guess if you can let me know if there's anything else going to happen in the foreseeable future.
Thank you. The Chair recognizes the Honourable the Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member for questions around his constituency. Certainly, $1 million question that's asked by all MLAs and all members of this legislature about work that we hope to do or we're planning to do this year. I will say to the honourable member that, as he knows, 8 kilometres has been called on Trunk 14, which you already mentioned tonight. I can tell you that within the next week to 2 weeks, the tender will appear for the Davidson Bridge, the one that you're asking about. And I want to say beyond that, as I said earlier to many members that ask on both sides of the House, we've allocated X number of dollars this year for capital, and I'll resist saying any about passage of the budget. Or who will be supporting the budget? I'll resist going there, but I will say that with passage of the budget, that there will be other, as the member would know, we're allowed to call 50% of our last year's budget, and we're quite close to that right now. I believe we're close to 50% of last year's budget been called, or approximately. So that's in the works now. We do have other projects province-wide that, depending on the passage of the budget again, that we'll be calling over the next weeks and months. But I want to make sure that I've said earlier, and it's worth repeating for all members, I guess, on both sides of the House, that we are facing huge challenges this year in regards to a lot of things that I've talked about. When petroleum goes up, I know it affects all your constituents, and it also affects this department. And again, I know the honourable member knows, but I want to make sure that anyone would listen would understand as well. When gasoline goes up, diesel goes up, that base that we guarantee with the Truckers Association, that we have an agreement with them, we have to increase the prices we pay to them for fuel. I think it costs us this year increased 22% increase. The road builders, with projects that they've tendered and been awarded, there's an adjustment in there that they receive as well, because the cost of liquid asphalt has gone from $450 a ton to $685. And all the costs that additional costs that Nova Scotians face, this department faces as well. Whether it's road work, whether it's fuel that we use, whether it's whatever it is, the department is facing that as well. So we're facing many challenges, and then as well with some of the projects coming in higher than what we may have originally thought, whether it's bridges or roads, we have to face that. So we have to consider all that in our budget. So I can tell you that across this province, in the coming weeks and months, there will be more tenders, but I can't, as I told other members earlier over the last yesterday and today, that I can't specifically tell you which projects. I can tell you, we can provide a list of tenders that have been called, but I'm sure you know those already, province-wide. But again, what tenders will be called, certainly my department would like to call many more, and we're facing those challenges I indicated. So again, it's not. Other than that, I can tell you that I'll be looking forward, as well as you will, to other projects across Nova Scotia. Thank you.
The honourable member for Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the Minister again. I appreciate what he's saying. I can appreciate what he's saying in regards to the price of oil and the impact on the cost of pavement. I'm going to kind of go outside the box. You might say, never thought of that. But I'll say I heard a rumor that maybe a section of the number 2 highway from Enfield to Milford might be possibly get on the list. So what I'll say to the Minister, if that turned out to be a possibility, or even if it doesn't turn out to be a possibility, I'll still give him this advice. What I had heard was possibly from the 9 Mile River in Elmsdale to Coventry Lane in Milford. And I just want to make a plug for, if you're going down that road, so to speak, that you would take that to the 14 highway, to the intersection of the 14 highway, which is being repaved now. So I just think it'd be a better way to finish off that job. My view would be that the section through Shubenacadie is probably more pressing, but I know there's drainage issues there that would cause it to be a much more expensive job. So I think those drainage issues would have to be addressed before anybody could ever pave that. So I'll just throw that out there. I'm thinking the minister probably can't respond to that other than to say, yeah, thanks for the advice, and you know. But there is something. Your chief engineer would be aware of this. I raised it with Minister McIsaac, the former minister, and but it's on the hill on the 14 where you intersect with the number 2 highway. I see him nodding, like not this again. There is as you approach from the west to the number 2 highway on the 14, Mr. Minister, from the overpass, which would be exit 9 in Milford, there's an indication of the speed limit is 70 kilometers an hour, and there's an indication of a hidden driveway sign, and underneath or somewhere there's another sign that says 50 kilometers or 55, and but that's only used as a guide. The speed limit is 70, and because there's a hidden driveway, it's recommended that you do 50 kilometers an hour. After you come over the hill where the hidden driveway is, you're approaching a stop sign. And now, as you come off the number 2 highway and head up the 14, there's another hidden driveway sign. So you got a hidden driveway sign going down, a hidden driveway sign coming up. And I've been trying to convince the department and the previous ministers, to make that a 50 kilometer an hour zone. The residents would like that to be 50 kilometers, and you got a sign as a guide saying 50 kilometers. So I'll make my plug again for that. And one of the issues quite often there, Mr. Minister, is that there's a high school nearby, and so when the kids leave school, whoever got cars, they head out that road, and a 50 kilometers would be more appropriate. And I could take the minister to an exact replica of that signage, except the case I would take him to, it is 50 kilometers. And there's no hidden driveways, it's a straight stretch of road, and I look at that one and say, this is 50 kilometers, and this one's 70, and there's hidden driveway there. So, and I can't seem to convince the department the two should be appropriately the same. So, I'm going to let the minister comment, although I know it's difficult without seeing it. So,
thank you. The chair now recognizes the Honourable the Minister of Transportation Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. The first issue around, I think it was trunk 2. I don't want to stand here and because you can do by process elimination determine which one. But I will tell you this: that trunk 2 is not on the list this year for capital money. It is on the list for patching, asphalt patching, which obviously on the rim. So that's all I want to say about your roads. So if you ask me about any more roads, I'm going to say I don't know. But on the other issue that you mentioned about the speed and the signs and that, we presently have you mentioned to my colleague that was already aware of that and has talked about it. There's already been a request to do another review of that. So once the individuals had an opportunity to do that, we'll be able to tell you more. But there will be a new review of the situation, and we'll see what the results of that are.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Hants East.
I know your chief engineer would know when I speak of from Moose Brook to Walton, he'd know that section of road. So yeah, they'll probably receive some correspondence on that. So I'll make that my last question. If anyone there can tell me if you have a plan for what might happen there, and then when I respond, I'll turn over to one of my colleagues.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Transportation Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Honourable Member. And I I certainly have seen a lot of correspondence in regards to the road that the honourable member brings forward, and I appreciate his bringing it forward to me, not only tonight but on other occasions, and I know that he's very supportive of his constituents and having something done there. I will say that there are other, as a member would agree, and I know and appreciate, there are many roads across this province that are in dire need, and as we've talked about the last couple of days here, it's a matter of balancing those needs, whether they're 100 series, whether they're secondary roads, roots, trunks, and some gravel roads that need attention as well. So I will tell all the members that we're well aware of that, and I can't make a commitment as whether or not there'll be any capital money this year, but I certainly appreciate you bringing it forward, and we will consider it, as well as other roads that have been brought to my attention in the last 2 days. We've quite a list, but I do appreciate it, honourable member, and I know that you're advocating on behalf of your constituents, and I appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Thank you. The honourable member for Hanseath.
I want to say thanks to the minister and staff for the help I've received in the past, and for what I know is going to happen in the immediate future. I appreciate that. I know my constituents do. If you could just triple that, that'd be fine in the next month or two. I want to hand over to my colleague from Halifax Citadel and say thanks to the minister.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the honourable member from Halifax Citadel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank my colleagues for giving me a little bit of time. I know transportation is a very important issue outside Halifax Citadel, but I have some very specific constituency questions related mostly to the rail cut itself. As you know, it's become quite an opportunity for many people, and I'm wondering if the minister knows of any feasibility studies that have been done within his department or in related departments to use the rail cut for enhancing rail itself, for taking container traffic out of the Port of Halifax.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. I know that the Premier in recent months has talked about the rail cut and obviously the opportunity for the movement of truck traffic, in and out of the south end of Halifax, and what that would mean. But that specific project and that specific initiative actually would fall under Gateway, which would be Minister of Economic Development. So I don't have a lot more information other than that to say that. I know it's been something that's been discussed, but I can't tell you exactly where it's at this time. But I believe HRM had done some work previous in regards to that as well, at least some not a review, but some information gathering, I guess. But again, that falls under the minister responsible for Gateway.
Honourable member for Halifax Citadel.
So if I understand it, then the Minister of Transportation would not have any role or would not be included in any planning or feasibility studies involving the rail cut for the movement of containers or passengers in or around or along the rail cut.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And no, I haven't specifically, as Minister or our department, have not been asked to address that issue. Again, that whole issue has been dealt with under Gateway.
Honourable member for Halifax Citadel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just another quick question. A number of constituents have noticed, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't know about how accurate these are, but people have been talking about the state of the bridges and overpasses along the rail cut. And anytime I've asked, it seems to have led into a jurisdictional question as to who is responsible, whether it's HRM or CN or the federal government or the province. And I'm wondering if the minister is able to enlighten us as to what his position is on who's responsible for the repairing those overpasses and bridges along the rail cut.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the honourable member for the question. I can tell you who's not responsible for it, and that's the Minister of Transportation in our department. But no, in all seriousness, I believe it does fall on the responsibility of shared between HRM and Canadian National Railway.
The Honourable member for Halifax Citadel with 15 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will pass it on very quickly to the member from Queens to close.
Good luck. The honourable member for Queens.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you very much for your time in the House this evening. I want to thank again your staff, and maybe next budget session when we're all here, if we're all here, we can have more time so that we can get to other questions that haven't been asked. Thank you.
Order, please. Thank you. The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and pleased to have an opportunity to ask a few questions. In fact, departed from the Irish delegation in order to ask a few questions of the minister. I know my colleague, the critic for transportation for our party, has asked about the 101 highway and, in particular, passing lanes. There is no question that the area from Colebrook to Bridgetown, in fact, may be the longest stretch of highway that is considered part and an extension of the Trans-Canada Highway that doesn't have passing lanes. In this House, when I first arrived 5 years ago, I asked this question, and basically the response was, well, it's a pretty straight and flat section of road. But nevertheless, I don't want to bring up those grim statistics around deaths on that highway and serious injury. In fact, one of my students, a former hockey player with my son, died on that stretch of highway on the way to practice. And it is my hope that in representing the people of Kings West that we will see an improvement through just passing lanes. I don't think at this time the volume of traffic would warrant perhaps twinning beyond Colebrook, maybe at some point in the future, but passing lanes is a reasonable request. And I'm wondering where the minister and his departments stands on passing lanes, Colebrook to Bridgetown on the 101 highway.
The Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the honourable member for the question. I just wanted to take a moment, if I could, to talk about the great deal of work that has been done on the 101 in the last number of years. I know the honourable member, I'm sure, would agree, and I know the honourable member for Clare has raised it in the House, both the issue that's being discussed at this moment and as well in estimates about the 101 and the amount of work that's anticipated, has been done and is anticipated. I'll say what I said earlier was that we have spent, the government in this province has spent millions and millions and millions on the 101, and it's money that's in work that's well needed, certainly needed, and I think it'll go a long way to ensuring that piece of highway is safe. It continues to be a safe highway to travel on. I know there's been a number of deaths that we watched over the last number of years is very regrettable, and as well to what the honourable member just mentioned, certainly our sympathies for families that have suffered the loss of loved ones along those highways. I know I can get back to my own riding where Wentworth was known, unfortunately, was known as Death Valley, and a lot of deaths. And I can tell you, since whether we agree or not with the way the highway was built, certainly has led to a lot safer highway for people to travel on when it comes to a divided highway. And on the 101, there's we have planned for another section to be repaved this year, more grading work, and another section to be paved next year. And I believe that every year, for the next number of years, until we get all the way down to where the honourable member's talking about, and right through to Digby, that we'll see sections of that highway improved over the next number of years. In fact, the Premier's made a commitment of modernising and twinning from all the way from Sydney to Yarmouth by 2020, and that's 12 years away. So there's a lot of work has to be done over the next number of years. A lot of work in a very short period of time, because that time will go by very, very quickly. I can tell the honourable member. He's talking about the passing lanes in that area. The cost is around $12 million to do those passing lanes. It covers about a 17-kilometre section total of highway through that area. We would be looking to take that money from the base funding, in regards to the federal government, and the opportunity to cost share with them. I can tell you this year, honourable member, that that base funding has been almost totally used up with broadband. So we don't have a lot of money available to us this year in that regard. But again, the design for that work is complete. We certainly want to see that work completed as soon as possible, and it basically comes down to a matter of funding and when we'll have the dollars available to do it. But I want to assure the honourable member that it's certainly something we see as a priority, and we're working towards having it done. To give you a specific timeline as to when to see it completed, I can't tell you. I can tell you that it looks like this year's money in that regard is used. I would hope that certainly by next year we'll be able to do that work. I know it's important to the area, I know it's important to the honourable member, and I know it's important to all who travel that highway. But I do want to reiterate that a very significant amount of money has been and is being spent and will be spent on the 101 to ensure that we make our highways as safe as possible. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the minister for not so much about the detail here, but rather his expression of concern, because he's really reflecting a report in the province section of the Chronicle Herald dated February 5th, 2008, where the title of the article is Valley Road Carnage, Police Blown Away by Number of Fatalities in Region in 2007. And the deaths were, yes, impaired driving 5, driving error 5, weather conditions 6, speed 6, driver fatigue 3, pedestrian error 1. But when you look at those totals, we know that, road safety, road conditions, and we all know that, that divided highways and proper passing lanes are all part of the bigger picture of improving safety for drivers. So I'm pleased that the minister is taking the issue very serious. But people throughout that area of the valley that drive from any point from Bridgetown to Colebrook and who travel that section to work each day, it's a road they travel close to 300 days a year. So it is a major concern. I'm wondering if the minister and the department are setting a goal like the twinning by 2010 from Halifax to Colebrook to get the adequate number of passing lanes in place. Is there at least a general plan that the department is now reviewing and considering as they take those plans off the shelf to realize?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the honourable member for again his concern for his constituents. Certainly, the amount of traffic down through Colebrook certainly supports twinning. I don't think there's any question about that. I know there's beyond that, maybe that there is a reduction of numbers, but there is an area there that certainly needs attention and is cause for concern for all of us. And I know the honourable member is concerned about it as well. And that's why the department has determined that after the review that those passing lanes are needed. And what I would say to the honourable member is this: that taking into consideration what's happened on the highway, the department will do everything we can to make sure that happens as soon as possible. I'm not going to stand here tonight and tell you it's going to be done by a certain date, because that wouldn't be fair to you, and it wouldn't be fair to the department either. But because of the allocation of funds that the process we've gone through in this last little while, but I will tell you that it is a priority for us, and we'll ensure that it gets done as quickly as possible for the very reasons the honourable member mentioned. I do want to say, while I have an opportunity, Mr. Chair, that certainly doing that, I'm sure, will help make that drive safer for all your constituents. But I don't want the members here to underestimate when other things are brought before this House that the honourable member I know has supported, and I want to give credit to the honourable member Clare, who has supported initiatives around changes to the Motor Vehicle Act that we've talked about, and in the initiatives such as the Southwest Pilot Project, I guess that the police have embarked upon joint services, the RCMP and the local police. have certainly highlighted to me with the results they've had, and I read the stats in the House here one day, that the results they've had in regards to stopping vehicles, impaired drivers, unlicensed drivers, suspended drivers, and many other motor vehicle infractions, certainly has highlighted to me the number of people that are out there breaking laws every day on our highways. And we have got to, you know, I applaud the Minister of Justice. Again, additional police officers this year that will go a long way to help make our highway safer. I want to applaud the police and the RCMP across this province who every day go out and doing everything they can to make our highways safer. The honourable member read from the article some of the charges that were laid and some of the blame, you know, and where the blame lies for some of these accidents. And you know, we have so many dollars to work with, and I think we have to ensure that we target areas such as the honourable member brings forward here tonight for safety reasons and do what we can, and we will. But I think the other areas as well, Motor Vehicle Act changes, enforcement issues, education, all those other components as well that we have an opportunity to have influence on. And I think they all come together to make our highway safer. And I think that and I want to thank the members opposite for their support in these initiatives, because they're very important initiatives and they will continue to make our roads safer in Nova Scotia. But again, to the honourable member, I thank you for bringing forward the issue tonight about those passing lanes. It's a priority for the government. The design is ready to go. It's a matter of us finding the dollars, and I will tell you that we will get those done as soon as we possibly can.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for being cognizant of some of the concerns. I just want to let him know that sometimes even large farming equipment like harvesters will move on that highway, whether they should be there or not. That's the reality that they are there. They have to move from one part of the valley to another, and so sometimes that slows traffic, and motorists get irritable and pull out and pass long lines of traffic, which is a very, very dangerous practice. So I know the Minister is very, very much aware of the need, and I do appreciate that as we work for a safer province and a reduction of highway fatalities. One other area that I wanted to move to before finishing up with a very short amount of time is that the valley floor comprised of a very, very significant esker, which is basically a very, very long sand dune throughout the valley. And we have a lot of roads that received a sand seal coating, which is not pavement, but holds a road in place and has served some areas very, very well. But the practice of the department has not to continue to sand seal for the most part. And I'm wondering why the department, where this was a fairly low-cost investment, as to why this practice was not continued, and why perhaps it should be reviewed for possible reinstatement as a department practice.
Honourable the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again to the honourable member. I just want to clarify to the honourable member that the province does continue to do sand seal projects, and the program is still alive. There will be projects this year, and there will be sand seal projects in Kings County.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm glad to hear that. And perhaps now I can be more specific, since I do have a lot of sand seal roads in my area, and I'm wondering if there is anything on the books for Kings West in terms of sand sealing. And I bring this up because there's one little section that comes off of exit 17 and heads to a very, very well-regarded and highly utilized park, the Yogi Bear Jellystone Park in Kingston, and that probably has about 300 sites, most of them actually filled by residents of Halifax. But in order to get along that section of Brooklyn Street, it's a sand seal section, and it has been in a very, very poor state of repair for some time. And but I'm just wondering generally, are there some projects in Kings West where renewal of the sand seal roads will be part of this year's budget?
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Honourable the Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, Renewal.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the member opposite. I just noticed that certainly tweaked the interest of the honourable member for Hants East, because he was trying to pry some information out of me earlier as well. But that's a maintenance. That would be a maintenance contract, maintenance work that would be done. So I wouldn't have that information with me. But I do want to say that we'll certainly take it under advisement. The honourable member's request here tonight. But again, that program is still a program that's used in certain parts of the province. It's not used everywhere, and it's only Lunenburg and Kings. Yeah, Lunenburg and Kings County are actually the only two counties that were the sand sealing projects. But I'll certainly take it under advisement, the request of the honourable member tonight, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable the Member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Earlier in the session here, the minister informed my colleague here from Shelburne that we had an exceptional winter in Nova Scotia. And we know that there may have been just a temporary breakdown in research at the NDP caucus, but we discovered that there were around 50 thawing and freezing rather than 3. We had about 50 this winter. This was an exceptional winter in Nova Scotia, and I heard from a number of engineers that deal with roads both in the private and public sector that it was a real tough winter on our roads. But one of the real concerns on a daily and an ongoing basis was the availability of sufficient salt. And I'm wondering if the minister is starting a plan and a process that will give greater guarantee that there will be adequate salt in the sheds across Nova Scotia so that safety is not compromised throughout the province.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Transportation, Infrastructure, Renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank the member opposite for the question. There was actually 170 freeze-thaw cycles this year. Pardon me? Did I say 50 originally? I just said that to see if you were paying attention or not. Well, obviously you were. Pardon me? Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, but the honourable member's question, you raised a real good question here tonight. Very good question. You're right. This last year was a year that would have been very difficult to plan for fully compared to the seasons we've had over the last 10, 15, 20 years. And I think everybody would agree that, see, I have 1 minute left. I think everyone would agree that this was an extraordinary year when it came to, and obviously our budget showed that. We were way over in our budget this year in regards to salt and overtime. I can tell the honourable member that we've learned from the past year in the issues around, we had an issue around trucking, which I'm sure the honourable member is aware of. We'll ensure that our salt bases and storage will be full and ready to go with this season. I know the salt mine certainly worked overtime and produced a lot of salt that maybe necessarily other years might not require. But I can tell the honourable member, we'll be looking forward to the season with hopes that we won't have the same kind of season we had last year. But however, we will be prepared for it. We have great staff, and I think we'll be well prepared this year to head into winter. Thank you.
Thank you. The honourable member from Kings West.
I'm blessed in Kings West with an outstanding local base.
Thank you. The time allotted for debate in Committee on Supply for today has now expired. The chair now recognizes the Honourable the Deputy Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that you now do rise to meet again another day in the committee clerk report progress.
Is it agreed? Please. The committee reports.
Committee has met and made very considerable progress and begs leave to sit again.
Carried. The chair now recognizes the Honourable the Deputy Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would move that the House now do rise to meet again tomorrow, where the hours will be from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. After the daily routine and question period, we'll move into Committee of the Whole House on Supply, and from there into Committee of the Whole House on Bills.
Thank you. The motion before the House is for the House to rise and meet again tomorrow at 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Is the House ready for the question? Question has been called. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. The House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.